Get her, buddy, get her. Go, break that sleeve. He's checking to see if everybody's watching him. He's like, you guys are watching? Good boy. You're not strong enough. Now, if I can only teach him to make me one of these. Kablap! Oh, so good. Hi.
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 Hi. Clean as a whistle. I shaved even for you today.
Gosh, you look great.
Do I look great? I moved my hat off to the side so as not to obscure any of my
What do you think about our new lighting?
pretty blue eyes. I think it's cool. What does it look like from your side of things?
It looks awesome.
So it looks pretty cool. Does it make our eyes look different or do anything weird? Or?
It may do a little ring in your eye.
Little ring in my eye? Oh, cool. Will it bring out my blueness?
Of course.
Cool. Stand
What
back,
could
everybody. Stand back. Okay, so are we ready to jam on it?
Let's do it.
I know we shoot this every week, and every week it feels like I haven't sat here with you and done the show in a long time.
Because every single day feels like a lifetime.
Is that in a good way or a bad way?
In a great way.
That can be taken, right? That can be taken. Every single day with you is like a lifetime. Now, we could live a lifetime together of joy, or we could be imprisoned in a lifetime of pain and suffering.
That thing, like, when I was younger, I used to tell my mom, like, the night would feel like a week later from the morning. Because we also wake up super early, you and I.
Yeah.
We both wake up. I'll get texts from Sean at 5:30 in the morning about ideas and things like that. So we're up pretty early, and then we go to bed, 10:30 or something. So it's a long day. And if you put 7 of those together,
yeah, it ends up being like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
It's almost a lifetime. It feels like I think there's some subtle, like, we call that subtext, I think. Anyways, guys, good to have you back. Like I said, it feels like it's been a million years, but I know it hasn't been because the episode that's on YouTube says otherwise, that we were here last week. And numbers are going good.
Yeah,
numbers
are going up.
I think we're picking up some steam here. We're starting to get more and more viewers coming in quicker and quicker, so that's pretty cool. You guys all, we love you. Appreciate if you spread the word to anybody that you think might need help with their dogs. And I think also we're doing the podcast, so the podcast probably siphons off some of those numbers and sends, that's what I say to myself in case the numbers aren't as high as I want them to be. Anyways, so I think we're going to jump into the show a little bit real quick. I was just going to mention that I think, if I'm not mistaken, you've got a little NOLA trip
Yes.
in the works.
I'm planning on,
give 'em a little-
haven't pulled the trigger on anything yet, but I'm planning on maybe going down to NOLA. I turn 31 next week.
It's
I met
good.
you when I was, what, 26?
30 feels like a lifetime ago.
30 feels like a lifetime. Yeah, so...
Were you
I
26?
was 26, just turning 27 when I met you.
Wow.
So that's funny.
That does feel like a lifetime ago.
It was.
Yeah.
That's like 8 lifetimes ago. I'm so happy about that too. I think back to that time and I'm like, wow, that's not that long ago, but wow, am I happy that's
So
gone.
much has changed for us.
Plots.
9. I just like saying 9.
Yeah.
And then he listens. It's great.
So listens.
But he's got a real sniff thing going on. This is
loves
Cujo. Cujo's like
Joe.
his second shooting.
Q&A.
Yeah, and he's got a little sniff kind of
Yeah, he's a
fascination
sniff guy.
with all the boys.
And girls.
And girls. So Nola, give him a quick rundown.
So I'm turning 31 and I am feeling like maybe just going out there for a few days, like maybe do a few clients down there, do that thing, but take Cujo. Because he's all set up and I'm also set up to be a handler on a plane, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun.
So that's cool. So anybody, NOLA clients, we're going to take a look at maybe plugging some folks in. Mm-hmm. I know there's been a lot of people waiting for us to get down there. So I'm excited about Laura getting down there for a little vacay, but also hopefully being able to help maybe some of you guys out before I get down. So I'm headed down on I'm driving down on the 15th of September. So I'm leaving for 6 weeks.
Yep.
6 weeks, except I go to T3 for 1 week in Portland. Almost said Holland, and T3 Holland would be great, but I don't see that on the calendar just yet.
Yeah.
But so I'll be a week in Portland. I'll be a week in Portland. And but other than that, I'll be in NOLA for 6 weeks, handling clients, working board and trains and one-on-ones, and having a little vacation myself. Just kind of letting my hair down a little bit, getting out of just the grindy grind.
You definitely need to let your hair down.
Yes. It feels like a lifetime ago since I let my hair down, and probably 3 lifetimes for you. So anyways, that's what's kind of cooking. We got some NOLA plans, and Britt's going to come down. Like the whole crew's going to come down.
Yep.
Britt's going to come down to watch my guys, who will be with me when I fly to Portland. So Britt's going to fly down, and it's her and her boyfriend's anniversary. So they're going to have like it's just all kind of working nice. So that's what's shaking. That's what's going on. It was really nice to have Enrique here last week.
Yeah, it was really
and also Janine, the 2 Shadow folks, and they were awesome. Did a lot of cool, fun stuff with them, and so that's kind of the up to date. And now we're going to jump into
Cujo.
We're not going to jump into Cujo. We're going to jump into the show. You guys ready?
Ready.
Hey everybody, Sean from The Good Dog, and this is the almost 31 years old. It's been a lifetime, Laura Morgan, the lovely lifetime Laura Morgan, and all this, these tap dancing, snoring, sniffing scoundrels are and is and are the Good Dogs Q&A Saturday, episode number 45.
Yay! All right. Question number 1. This is from Richard Chan. Richard says, first of all, thanks tons for doing this. Secondly, what a cute, lovely Mal you have. Congrats.
Aww.
Thanks, Richard. I have a question about dogs that are very anxious on the walk. I'm talking about dogs that will walk on a loose leash but always look to the left and back behind, especially if there's someone walking a bit of a distance behind. The dog would act like it's constantly on the lookout for someone or something trying to get him. I've found that sometimes I correct too much with prong and e-collar and the dog seems to freak out more. Is there a special way to correct this type of behavior? Do you teach a watch command, or do you think it's a deeper problem that should be addressed first by looking at the why to get to the root of anxiety? And once that's done, the dog will feel more relaxed on the walk and stop it on its own. If so, what could we do to deal with that anxiety?
Good question. Good question. A little Jim Rohn impersonation. Nerds. Richard. Okay. Richard's been really active on Facebook, by the way. He's been really supportive. Yeah, great questions and all sorts of stuff. Nice. So, anxiety stuff. So here's one component, Richard, right? Snoring dogs. One of these components, or one of the components, is sometimes we just have anxious dogs that are genetically predisposed to anxiety, right? So I think it's always good for us to check in about parameters. And that doesn't mean that we give up. That doesn't mean that we set our bar low. That doesn't mean we don't try. But it does mean that we bear in mind that some dogs do come with a different ceiling about where they can get to, what they can hit as far as anxiety transformation, or being fully able to let that stuff go. So that's something to consider, as well as early experiences for a lot of dogs have created a lack of confidence, a lack of familiarity with the world, a lack of exposure, things like that, and that causes a lot of dogs to be anxious, right? So we've got experience stuff, and then we've got genetic stuff, and both of those can work against us, even with doing really good work. So I just want to plant that seed, not to bum you out, not to say don't try, but just it's a good thing to bear in mind that dogs have limitations, and we see that stuff all the time. So and then sometimes this stuff is just about, when we get dogs that come in with anxiety, there's no magic, like protocol. It's about a lot of like baseline, consistent, foundational training that we do over and over and over again in order to try and override that anxious state that the dogs get stuck in. So we do all of these things that you've heard us talk about, whether they're, e-collar heel, e-collar place, sit down, recall, pressure tolerance, duration work, all that stuff. We do all of those things continuously over a long period of time without allowing the dogs to have a lot of anxious moments, and that gives us a good shot at, it's just snoring everywhere. It gives us a good shot at finding out how far we can start to get those dogs, right? And sometimes within the first week we can see like, wow, we got a good shot at hitting a ceiling here with these dogs or this dog. Of course, we still keep pushing through, and sometimes they can surprise you. But most importantly is time, consistency, and foundation work, right? To find out how far you can go. So that's one part of the question. The other part was that you said sometimes you feel like corrections are amping up the dog, and that's absolutely possible, whether it's with e-collar or prong or anything else. Just constant, this kind of, like nagging, aggravating, especially with certain tools for certain dogs, can really lift those dogs up. So if you've got an anxious dog and you are constantly on that dog with a prong collar, pop, 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 you have a really good chance to keep the dog on edge and not relaxed. So if you saw my Sparky, I think you saw my Sparky video that I just posted, I'm using not a prong collar with him. I'm using very low levels on e-collar, and then I'm using a dominant dog collar anytime he needs a correction to actually help him mellow out and take him down. So that kind of covers it. Here comes Junior. It's coming for your cords.
The question was also the dog looking behind him during the walk.
Right, so right, which is a typical like fear, anxiety response. And so, we get dogs like that all the time.
Yeah, and it kind of depends on the type of dog too. If you get like a shepherding, like herding breed, and they're a little bit loose, that's kind of why we're not big fans of a loose leash with the dogs kind of leading out in front. Because you get kind of either it's a nervous dog, or you get a dog that kind of has a herding tendency that has like, okay, where's everyone? We need to get everyone in line. I don't know if that's really what it is, but we see it a lot. So I would say if you don't have the dog at a heel, like what we advocate for is just having them right at our heel. So if the dog's, I think he mentioned loose leash walking, so I don't know if the dog's out a little bit in front. Yeah. So just be cautious of that. Just have put the dog into a tighter heel, especially if you're getting that stuff.
Which button for that guy over there? Yeah, okay. Which one?
He's fine. Black.
Magic buttons. So what Laura's saying is right on the money. As far as the looking back and doing all that stuff, you have to really make your choices about what battles you're going to pick, right? So if we get too anal about this, and every time the dog moves its head we're correcting, we're going to be hyper vigilant to the point where we're actually being counterproductive. Typically, what we look for with nervous, anxious dogs are the bigger moments of reactivity or fear, which are like, the dog might do this stuff, but if the dog does a full crane, turns the neck, correction, don't do that. be present with me. But if we get some of this stuff, I'll typically let that stuff go. Because I find it counterproductive to try and address. I really want to get that point across more than anything, is that if you've got a dog that's on edge and you're seeing a lot of behaviors like this, if you keep addressing, you're going to lift that dog up. Rather than that, pick special moments where you see a more exaggerated version of that and correct those, and then see if we can just, by the consistency and everything else we said through leadership, accountability, rules, and structure, try and get the dog into an overall better space to where we're less anxious.
Yeah.
So anxiety is a tough one to get through. There's no magic bullet with it. We don't teach a watch me. I know you asked about that stuff. We don't teach a watch me. We teach a very low-key, calm, relaxed. Everything's about like chilling the dogs out, and that's kind of the approach. So I know I didn't go very quick or brief in that one, but that was kind of a hard one. So
Thanks,
hopefully that helps, Richard.
Yeah. Question number 2. This question comes from Megan.
Hi, Megan.
Megan says, I have a mini Aussie who will growl and go after my roommate's small dog if he has a bone. I've been working putting him in place with a prong collar and leash on and giving him a bone. He knows the command out when I tell him. But if her dog walks by or gets anywhere near, he starts to get aggressive and growl and want to go after her. I'm not sure how to correct him in the situation or how to fix the problem.
Megan.
Megan.
Okay, so let's see, I wrote a few notes for you. So obviously, like, the easy solution is to not have bones out, and I don't mean like just like put bones away, but not have bones out when both dogs are out. So like if you want to have an easy, safe, right, like, hey, we're not sure we're going to be able to fix this kind of situation, we want to make sure we just are safe, then dogs get bones when they're in their crates, or dogs get bones when they're on place and back tied, or dogs get bones when one's in place and one's in the crate and they're not even out around each other, right? So that's just an easy way to make sure you don't have that problem. Beyond that, then for us, if you're talking about like how do we address it, most likely, if I envision what you're dealing with like an Aussie and in kind of this like protective mode or possessive mode, and I think she was talking about she corrects it, maybe leash and prong.
Yeah, you can do it out and stuff.
Yeah. I don't imagine that correction, to be perfectly frank, is going to be valuable enough to cause your dog to change that behavior with the growling, because the possessive stuff has a lot of juice behind it. Not to mention that for prong collar corrections, your dog knows you have to, proximity-wise, get up and get close enough in order to correct and address. So they're really savvy about that. And so when they know that you need to be right near them to correct, that gives them a certain amount of latitude to do whatever they want to do. So we just had 2 dogs that went home with very similar issues with this, Reggie and Sadie, both fighting, going after other dogs, and then also resource guarding with people. So we fix it with e-collar, right? E-collar is just so much more valuable as far as the correction itself is more valuable, and then the convenience of being able to be neutral, being across the room, seeing your dog engage in a like that and correct right there without any energy in the room changing. You don't have to raise your voice, don't have to do anything. The dog realizes mom didn't have to cross the room, she still corrected me. That's powerful stuff. That's how we get rid of that stuff. So if your dog's not on e-collar, your Aussie, then I would do some basic recall. You can watch, if you're into e-collar, I would get a mini educator, e-collar technologies, mini educator 300, get it off of Amazon, watch our recall video off of our website, and just spend like a few days just getting the dog conditioned to recall, which you don't have to even have like an awesome recall, just to where your dog's familiar with the sensation of the e-collar, right? And then you can start using it to correct for certain things. Now, if you want to get deeper into it and train your dog like all the behaviors on e-collar, that's rock and roll, extra points. But just getting him conditioned, and then he's in place or she's in place, and she starts to get a little bit of this, and then you can just tap the button, say no, or you can just tap the button. Oftentimes we won't even add a verbal to it. We'll just make it, this is, and some people say an act of God, but it's really just like, don't do that behavior around that dog. I don't even want to have to address you to make you not do it. a little tap on the button, and then your dog goes, wow, every time I growl or get snotty or get snarly or get possessive, I get corrected, and so let me make a better choice. So that's how we would fix it. If you don't want to get into e-collars, it's more challenging. I just don't think prong collars are going to give you the juice that you're looking for as far as state of mind change. So if you're not into it, then I would look at some kind of management to keep things safe.
Yeah, just put those, that she's not earning them. She's definitely not earning those bones, so let's keep them out if you don't want to really work through that e-collar.
Yeah, I mean, possessive stuff and like competition is a great way to create tension with dogs. Tension that can actually ripple out far beyond just that moment of contention of like, that's my thing. And you can start getting dog fights down the line because they've got this tension built up with each other about other things in other contexts. So don't take chances on it. Put one of the dogs away, put the dogs in the crates, or go after it and fix it, but you got to do it right. And I would say e-collar is probably your best approach to do it.
Definitely.
Cool?
Cool, thanks. Okay, guys. We've got question number 3.
Allison.
This is from Allison. Allison says, I have a small dog that has separation anxiety. I've been using your methods with a ton of progress, but we're still struggling a bit. He has great crate manners as long as we are home. He doesn't rush the crate door when coming out and waits for the command to go in. As long as we're home, he's fine to even sit in another room and sleep in his crate, but the moment we leave the house and driveway, he starts barking. He grabs the crate door with his teeth and rattles it and will dig the door to get out. We just got him a Garmin bark collar, which was suggested by Gelman, and it's helping immensely.
Gelman.
But it would love any more advice to help him to calm down the crate or exercises I can do to make him more independent. Thank you so much, you guys, and I love what you do.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Allison. Okay, so first thing, and if you've talked to Jeff, like on one of his webinars, and if that's where you got this information from or anywhere else, then I'm sure you've already heard, but you got to be super careful about affection, proximity stuff, like how much and how often your dog is allowed to be close to you, on your lap, that kind of stuff. A dog with separation anxiety, I wouldn't be allowing to be on the furniture, couch, bed, on laps, anything like that right now. That's going to be counterproductive for this dog. It just, even proximity, just like putting your dog in place at your feet is not going to help that dog. That dog needs to learn how to tolerate being farther away from you. So that's part of the fix. Then I'm glad to hear the bark collar's helping out. That's a great tool. Good to know the Garmin's working good for you guys. We haven't checked out the Garmin yet, but that's good to hear.
It's the Tritronics, like what they bought. You know,
It's
so
their new
similar,
version of the Okay, so but the way we address, because we get dogs like this, well, what would I say, every other week. So pretty much every dog that comes in, not every dog, but so many of the dogs that come in have that same stuff where they're a little separation anxiety, or just tantrumy, or I don't want to be in the crate, or whatever it is, or panic. It can be so many things. And they'll bark, they'll bite the crate, they'll tear, they'll dig, they'll do the whole spiel. So what we do is we put an e-collar on the dog and we use a drop cam. And so the difference with this versus, say, like the no bark collar, is that you can actually control exactly the levels you want to get the dog at, and you can get the dog at as when the dog is working up, rather like the no bark collar is only going to correct for a vocalization, right? So it's limited. Now you get a drop cam or a baby cam or some other fancy, you know, like what do they do with iPhones, like FaceTime or something like that. You get that, and you have an e-collar on the dog, and then you're watching. Actually, here's the setup. Like, camera setup, e-collar on your dog, take off, shut the door, do all your signals that you're leaving, because you're really leaving, and like go stand outside and then watch, and then so you're like, oh, Sparky's starting to get worked up. Now, you don't wait until Sparky's biting the crate. You don't wait until Sparky's going, you know, ape. You correct right then as soon as you start to see, you know, any of that stuff, that's when you want to correct. Now, if he immediately starts to move to something more, like a higher escalation of like biting the crate, something like that, then I go to a higher level correction pretty straight away. I really, 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 and it can sound it's harsh for people because they're like, but he's separation anxiety guy and he's nervous and he's worried. Yes, he's all those things, and the kindest thing I can do is stop that in its tracks. So if I can share a consequence or a correction with that dog that breaks that emotional habit pattern of like, when I'm in the crate, this is what I do, give him a nice, quick, firm correction right at the moment when the dog starts to escalate and he goes, whoa, I don't want to bite the crate. That was really uncomfortable. I don't want to vocalize and do all that. That was really uncomfortable.
Right.
So that's the way that we go.
You want to cut it off at the pass. It's like that same thing if you're having a panic attack. I don't know if anyone's had that experience, but not me. I've just read about it, and I just know that like if you have some. If you have someone if you're in a panic state, okay, let's just say panic state, maybe not just in the attack, because I can't think of the time I've ever been in an attack where I've had someone around.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm telling you guys all this.
It's good that you share right before your birthday. Get it off your chest.
I don't really have any weird stuff about sharing that stuff. Okay, so, but panic state, right? So you've got a dog that's working up. If
you're about to have a panic attack if he walks by your thing.
If you're just like, hey, just stop.
Yeah, if I'm freaking out, well, I'm really having a hard time. And,
oh, it's okay, Sean. You're going to be okay.
But I'm really freaking out.
You're going to be okay.
No, but I'm freaking out.
Can I give you a little, like, massage?
That's not enough.
Okay. All right.
Now, if you were to, like...
Get yourself together, man.
Right? Which, we're being funny, obviously, but there's a lot of truth to the fact of that. Once the mind starts going and gets locked in the cycle, if you don't have... Let's see if he's going to lay down. If you don't have
down, Junior.
He can't hear you. He's going to go nest in the bathroom. He's 16. If you don't have a method, I just want you guys to get this concept because it's applicable to so many things. Yeah. If you don't have a method to stop a cycle, you're toast, right? If the dog is cycling and the cycle starts to get bigger, now we got biting the crate, now we got howling, barking, all that stuff. Yeah. Your job is to inhibit that cycle, break it to where the dog goes, I don't like being in the crate, but you know what? I'm going to try and find another way to handle this. And dogs will always do whatever comes natural and easiest first. And biting and barking through the crate is what comes natural, and easiest first for the dogs. So, bark collar's doing good. I mean, you can do all the regular exercises and stuff like that with the dog in the crate door open, dog in a down stay, all that stuff. But to be perfectly frank with you guys, like, I haven't seen a lot of the more fancy pants exercises that are supposed to help dogs feel better about being in the crate and creating positive associations. I haven't found them to work very well. And I'm probably being pretty generous. I haven't found them to work really at all for us. So what we find, come on in, Britt, you want to be on camera? Want to be on camera? Come on in. Britt hates the camera. Come on in, it's a party. Right, it's fancy. We got it for you. So,
Continue.
What was I saying?
Separation, like the breaking, all those kind of lighter things aren't necessarily...
Right. There's a lot of techniques. If you go out and you do research and you type in, like, how to fix separation anxiety with dogs, you're going to get a ton of treat stuff, a ton of positive association, a ton of, like, step out for 2.5.3 seconds and then come back in the room, and now 3.5.3 seconds, all this stuff. But the reality is if your dog is having a severe enough panic attack, like a lot of dogs with severe stuff have, none of that matters, and it's not going to work. Because at least I haven't seen it happen. I haven't seen it work, and I haven't seen anybody show me videos of it working. Not to say somebody out there doesn't have the magic to make it happen, but I haven't seen it. So instead, keep it simple. Inhibit, block that state of mind, that escalation, that cycle. And I prefer you do it with a remote rather than a bark collar, because the bark collar can only address the vocalization. It can't address what you're seeing, which is the escalated state of mind. I hope that makes sense. That's the magic of the remote, and that's why we use that. Drop cam will cost you, what, 150, $200, something like that. There's cheaper ways to do it, but that's what we use. I can just watch it on my phone, and then I've got the e-collar, and then we knock it out. And then all of a sudden you'll find a dog, like, the next day laying down and relaxed. relaxed, and you're like, wow, he's chilled out in the crate, and I did all the things that are opposite of what I'm supposed to do to create a positive association. Let me tell you one thing, there's no way to have a positive association when you're freaking out in the crate and breaking your teeth because you're so panicked. There's no way for that to be a positive association. Block it, create an explosion where the dog goes, whew, I can't do that. Now you got a doorway in to try and create something new. So that's what I have to say about that.
Thank you.
Hope that helps.
Okay.
Ready?
Question number 4.
Patricia.
Patricia says...
Hi, Patricia.
Patricia says, I adopted a dog that I think was abused before. She growls at everything. She's very aggressive for a small little Maltese. She's 7 to 8 years old, but seems very aggressive to everyone. What do? I try to correct her, but she won't stop growling.
Oh, those feisty Malteses.
Feisty little
Malteses. Okay, so... Correction, he didn't. There you go.
Here.
I like this whole fancy German. Is that Brit stealing my Jeep?
Oh, what is she doing?
Brit, come back here. Okay, so Allison, first thing.
Patricia.
Patricia and Allison. I'm talking to both of you. So Patricia, first thing that I would check into is so where does the abuse thing come from, right? If you're kind of on an abuse tip story that the dog's had a hard time, it's going to affect a lot of your emotionality about how you address the dog. Just because the dog is aggressive or fearful or worried does not mean that the dog has been abused. So I would check in really quick with, does the story of this dog being abused serve you and the dog getting better or not, right? Even if the dog has been abused, it doesn't serve, when we have dogs that come in that have been absolutely terribly abused, we don't sit around and talk about the abuse story because that doesn't help us help the dog get better. So you have to really jettison that and let it go. That's the first thing. But it also tells me that might be affecting a lot of your other choices. So that said, what I'm going to get into is what I would get into any dog that came in here with any of that stuff, right? Which is baseline foundation training. And I suspect you probably haven't done that stuff. This is not treat training. This is not sit for a cookie or any of this stuff. This is I know it's a small dog, but it's leash and prong. You can get a small Herm Springer. A Maltese should be cool for a small Herm Springer. Take some links out, get it nice and snug. Have your dog drag that leash and prong collar around in the house whenever you're supervising. And then I would be going after sit, down, place, structured walk. I mean, if you want this, right, this is work. There's no getting around it. This is work. So if what I'm about to rattle off is whoa, that's a lot of work, then aggressive dog you shall have. So you've got an aggressive Maltese, so there needs to be work done in order to try and counter that, and there's no getting around that. That takes a bit of investment, right? So the cool thing is we have a bunch of free videos. You can go to our website at www.thegooddog.net, and you can see all those videos that I just listed: sit, down, place, heel, and you can do all that stuff with leash and prong, duration work, teaching that dog, giving that dog some strong leadership, some strong structure, some strong rules, and strong accountability, which is key for breaking any of those rules. You'll start to see that dog make different choices. I'm not talking about going in and addressing the aggression and just knocking your dog's block off for that. That's the last of your worries. The first thing you have to do is foundation training, and if you haven't done that, it's both, good news and bad news. Bad news because you haven't done it. Good news is you've got all this headroom of where you can go with this dog to try and get the dog better. The aggression is just a symptom of nervous, bratty, unsure, insecure, whatever dog. Your job is to give it enough leadership, structure, rules, and guidance to where it doesn't feel that stress and anxiety from not having information about how to move through the world. So, and feel free to add. Do you have any additions to that?
I would just be curious. You said you try to correct it, but maybe the correction just isn't enough.
Well, I'd love to know what that correction is. Saying no
verbal,
is not a correction for a biting dog.
And the thing to remember is that, with a dog, even if it has had abuse history, because you said you think he might be abused because he's growling at everyone, which makes that makes perfect sense to me. It's if a dog is growling at everything, it's probably hasn't had good experiences with people, that sort of thing. But like Sean said, that's not always the case, and maybe otherwise. But the good thing to do is just move forward and know that if there wasn't abuse and the dog's just being kind of a brat and growling at people,
or just insecure, didn't have experiences with people,
then that needs to be corrected. Or on the contrary, if there was actually abuse, what you need to do is say, knock that behavior off so that we can start a new life for you.
Because we're not abusing you.
No, there's no abuse going on.
We're all
now.
done with that.
So like, with kids that have had abusive backgrounds, they're not soft on rules, or in fact go even further with making more structure and more rules with kids like that, because they want them to move through the process so then later they can move on and have a good life, as opposed to just keeping them locked.
And what happens to kids that come from bad, negative, loosey-goosey backgrounds once they fall into a situation with lots of structure, leadership, and non-negotiable rules? What happens to them?
I think they thrive. Is that what you're looking for?
Well, I mean, whatever you want to say is what I'm looking for. But
I think they do really well. They're happy to be.
I mean, your mom works in like heavy-duty schools with heavy-duty kids, and you've substituted in heavy-duty places, and also babysitted.
Yes, lots of nannying. But yeah, I think there's a lot of there's a lot of school of thought if you talk to people that do deal with kids either with attention issues or and this is not my area of expertise, so I just want to be sure.
But you have great insight into it just from real life.
Kids with bad experiences from previous. My mom's always told me, like, the worse the kid's background, the harder she'll be on them. And that doesn't mean like she's hard on them, mean to them, but she's more firm with boundaries because they haven't been used to that. So all of a sudden now something comes in, it's maybe not what they're so excited about on the surface, but it's comforting because before that it's just been like, what's the word? When you can't predict, unpredictable, that
chaotic.
sort of thing, chaotic, So there's a lot. So then you say like, no, you can't do that. Oh, good, you can do that. No, you can't do that. Yes, you can do that. And then dogs and kids, I think, and human people, adults, tend to do the same stuff. So
yeah. So I just brought that up because I know we've talked about your mom's philosophies and the similarities and parallels that we use for dogs, and then she does really work with kids at risk and really challenging neighborhoods. So she's awesome, but she gets really great results with really challenging kids, and they tend to like. Oh, Miss Morgan,
she's the teacher
right?
Everyone goes back to visit. She's
right,
like,
because they represent strength, and strength represents safety. If you can think about it so clearly, like if your Maltese is nervous, insecure, freaked out, right, whatever it is, your dog will feel so much better being led by a strong leader, so they can just relax into that rather than feeling like they got to figure it out on their own. That's why they're all stressed out. All these dogs that are doing bad stuff, every dog that comes through here, 99 out of 100 dogs are dogs that don't have enough information about how to move through the world, and all we do is tell them what to do in a certain way, and they go, whew, and then that stress, anxiety disappears, and then they start making better choices on their own. So, and then just in closing, this is a dog that should not be on furniture, should not be on your laps, should not be getting, you should be incredibly cautious about any affection that you're giving this dog. And then people shouldn't be addressing the dog, right? If the dog is being iffy with people, this dog should not be, how did I put it? She should be in place and people should be ignoring her, or her or him.
for his benefit and for the like hey, you're
but I mean, if the dog's uncomfortable with people, the best way to make them more uncomfortable is try and create engagement with people. When the dog's like, I'm unsure about this, I'm going to be tense, I'm going to growl. But no, we really are dog lovers. We care about you.
I have one.
Right. Yeah. So hopefully that makes sense. If there's anything you get from this answer, it's what Laura said about her mom. The kids that have had the harder time are the kids that she's the hardest with, and they do the best, and they love her, and they excel, and they connect with her more than the other teachers that may not be able to share that same thing with her. So hopefully that makes sense. All those videos are there for the taking if you want. Lots of people train their dogs up with worse dogs than yours and do really well, so you can make that stuff happen if you want.
Cool.
Cool?
Thank you. Okay, question number 5. This
Yep.
is from Laura. Interestingly enough, Laura wrote me this in an email. She's thinking about doing a T3, and I think we've been going back and forth.
Oh, cool.
And she wrote me this in an email. I said, you got to add it to Q&A because we don't answer questions over email. And she said, she's not going to mind me sharing this, but she said, oh man, like I don't feel so great about
Yeah.
this question. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I've not done the best work or this sort of thing.
Yeah. She mentioned like she felt like she failed the clients or something like
and
that,
it's
right?
just interesting. It's like, Laura, you welcome to the club. You're like every trainer's had an issue. Every owner has guilt or shame about their dog
Yeah,
or what they've done.
absolutely.
So I just love that you put this out there and you really kind of threw caution to the wind and shared. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate you doing that. And sorry I goosed you into this, but it's going to be for your benefit and everyone else's. So
And here we go.
Here we go. So she says, I was using the advice you gave on how to deal with a dog that won't walk on a leash. We answered a question where we said, like, just kind of let's go.
Let's go.
But I came across a dog that put up a level of resistance I couldn't have imagined possible, and I wanted to know if you had further advice. First of all, I completely agreed with everything you guys said in your response, which is why I never thought I'd have this problem to begin with. Just keep going, the dog will get a bin, sort of thing. But I literally spent 10 to 15 minutes dragging, correcting this young 3-month-old pup around, first on a regular slip lead, then realizing that wasn't working on a prong, which I'm comfortable and experienced using. I even busted out some hot dog to lure her, but she refused to take a single step on her own the entire time. I do want to specify this was fearful resistance, not fearful resistance, but willful resistance.
Yeah.
A freedom-spoiled puppy had been full reign of the house despite being not potty trained, was allowed to jump and bite on the owner's 1-year-old baby, just to give you an idea. Anyway, while on leash, she'd stay on her feet, but would only step forward as she was being pulled forward. I took care to release tension anytime she was next to my side, basically once I'd reeled her in, but it didn't matter. Originally, I thought she'll put up a fight for a few minutes, then she'll see resisting doesn't work, but after 10-plus minutes, with her tongue hanging out in the heat, plus the pressure of the owners watching, I felt like I'd failed the dog because I was causing her undue stress. She's a puppy. I pushed her too hard, stopped, gave her water. Have you guys encountered a situation like this? What have I done? What should I have done? I ended up leaving the owner's homework of leashing her up to feed her and having him walk her on leash while getting a handful of food to get a positive association.
Yeah.
Any feedback would be appreciated. Cool.
Okay. So, Lara. First of all, yes, we've seen plenty of dogs like this. I can remember one specific dog long before your time, a Roddy, who would never walk. And I can remember him very clearly being an incredibly challenging dog to get to walk. What I ended up doing was jogging with him. Like, if I tried to pull him while walking, he was like, I can pull against this. But once I took off, I was like, we're going. And he was like, oh my goodness. And that actually helped break him through. Yeah, he had some tantrums and some resistance, and it probably wasn't the prettiest looking dog training in the world, but he just was completely capable physically. He just didn't want to walk on leash, and he was really like, I don't want to be away from home and all that stuff. Anyways, so yes, we've seen plenty of that stuff. You're not alone. We've all had dogs, like Laura said, that have been incredibly challenging. Every trainer I know has had a dog that's put them through the ringer or 100. So here's what I want to get into. First thing is that the first thing you should do, I don't know if you were doing this like the clients were at your house or you were at the client's house, but I would get that dog away from the clients. There's no way I'd want to do that session with the clients right there for a number of reasons. Not because you want to beat up on the dog, but because that dog is going to be at its worst. That's why, like Britt, who does all our one-on-ones here, 99 times out of 100, she says to the client, you hang out here, I'm going to go take your dog and get him started. Because that dog is going to be at its brattiest, anxious, worried, wanting to be with the owner, most empowered, in all those worst qualities, stressed out, all the worst stuff that you could ever want to stack on to a training session will all be present if the owners are there. Then you get the added pressure of the owner studying, watching you, and you being self-conscious and worried about, like, what are they thinking, what are you thinking? So instead of doing your best work, you're worried about the owner, and you're not serving the dog or the owner really at the highest level, in my opinion. So what we do is we explain to the owner that your dog will do better, that will be able to be easier on your dog, that your dog will have less pressure needed to be able to move into a good space if we remove you, so the dog can just be present with us and we can start to create a new pattern. So my first and most, like, if there's any dog wisdom to really like throw down here, that dog wisdom is strategy of like, how do you give a dog a, that's why board and trains rock, because board and trains, we get the dog out of that zone and we can start fresh. Can you stop the snorrelies? Did you see his eyes? He's like, ah! So that was hilarious. If you could only have seen that. So, Snorrelies. So, get the dog away from the owners so the dog can do better and that you can do better, right? And then if you're at the owner's house, there's been times where I'll pick a dog up and I'll take him away from the house, right? If it's a small enough dog, he's not gonna bite my face off. I might pick him up and go like, all right, let's get out of here, to where that dog's like, I wanna go home. Okay, great, now let's walk home, and maybe I can break him out, that way. Or just getting him far enough away from the house breaks some of that like tension and intensity. But I would never try and do that session you're talking about doing in front of the owners at their house. And even if they were at your house with the owners there, it's just the worst. So that's maybe the most important pivotal piece of information, is to strategically set yourself up to where you can do your best work, keep the dog at the least amount of stress, and then have the owners go out and be chilled out somewhere. You can give them a pamphlet to read. Come up with something about like your doggy and your walk rules, and let the owners read that pamphlet while you go and work with the dog. Then you bring the dog back when the dog's in a better space. So that's the first order of business. Beyond that, like I just said, pick up the dog, take it somewhere else, start jogging, which is an interesting one, and a lot of people probably say, oh, that's mean, and but once the speed starts going, the dog's like, ooh, I can't really, like, it's easy to kind of drag against a walk, but once there's like a locomotive going, it's a different story. So if you know that this dog is physically healthy and there's no problems and he's just being a brat, then reading that dog specifically, I might apply more pressure with a little more speed. That's not going to win you any awards for like fancy pants dog training stuff, though. So just to be clear, there's ways you could do this with like, days and days of pressure and release e-collar if the dog was in a board and train, or low level e-collar stuff and getting the dog to move. There's a lot of ways you could try and get around it if you had like really complex things and a lot of time. But we typically just move right through this stuff, and it's just like non-negotiable, like let's go, in the same kind of context we talked about last time. But this would be like, get rid of the owner so you get a better shot at it, and then just kind of go with it. And then I said you might need to do something like day training, where you actually have the owners drop the dog off and you have more time with the dog, instead of just a 2-hour or 1-hour session where you got all this time pressure. Give yourself, like, have them drop the dog off, and if anything, like, even charge them the same amount.
Do the same price.
Yeah, you're going to have the dog for a longer period of time, but it's a learning dog for you. It's a dog that you can find your strategy and your doorway in. And so that way you can do like 3-4 sessions with that dog, and then like get him into a good zone, out of his comfort zone with his folks, and then problem solve it. And then you're like, cool, now I know how to problem solve this. Yeah, it cost me a few bucks because I did day training for the price of whatever, but that's how I would do it. Like I said, dog training is, one part is skill set, the other part is strategy. Strategic, like, how do you do this to where the dog's in the best spot? So hopefully that helps. And if we're, you're going to jump in?
I was just going to say, like, Laura, if you were at T3 and you had given us this, they would be like, just take the dog for a week. Do a board and train for the same amount of money as it was the one-on-ones. I know that's not ideal, but if you wanted to just like, I'm gonna crack this, take the dog, or 3 days or 2 days, doesn't have to be a week. Just to get the dog out of that chaotic household and really make some strides, and also good for your confidence,
self-esteem.
And self-esteem. So you can say, you can also, I'm sure that dog a couple days with you is going to be a whole different dog. That's really good leverage for the owners. Also want to make sure that that's a client that you should even be working with, because that's not necessarily a client. If a client came into us and was like, oh my gosh, we let the dog run around and it's been on the baby and it's been biting and growling or doing whatever it wants, and oh, we made such a mistake, we've just been overwhelmed, that's different. But if they're coming in like, yeah, this is what we've done, can you fix it? that's not a client we would work with.
Yeah.
So just
if
want to
they're
make
cavalier
sure,
about all
Yeah.
the damage they've done.
just on the trainer side of things, just want to make sure that we're checking in with what clients we like to work with, because we don't want to burn out.
Right? And what, like Laura said, you know, doing any kind of like board and train where you get the dog out of its comfort zone, away from the owners, you get so much leverage, and it can happen quick. And it can surprise you like, whoa, now this dog's in a totally different gear because he's out of his comfort zone. And that's why we do so much board and train, because that's how we keep safe. That's how we make great progress and do that. So hopefully we see you at T3 and we can talk about, we can reminisce about this session and how you conquered it. And hopefully everything's awesome by then.
Cool.
Take care.
All right.
Do you have any snacks?
I got you all those cookies.
Did they already get eaten?
I'm sure there's some in there. I'll read the question.
I don't think there's many.
There's got to be a brownie. I saw a brownie. Did you eat it?
I might have.
There's
Anyways.
this. Oh, you can have some of this.
And coffee's gone too.
You can have some of this.
I'm just like,
that's
whoa,
mine.
whoa.
It's the same thing.
What is it? You
It's
got a
like-
cappuccino?
I got a latte, like a small latte.
Okay, I'm all right. Junior.
It's the same thing. You don't. She's like, nah, I don't.
Well, check it
I
out.
have a cappuccino, but
There we
no
go.
latte
Boom.
for me.
There we go.
It literally is like, just sip it. You'll try it. It's great. It's
Okay,
got
it
the
doesn't
added
feel like
shot.
there's anything in there.
Just try it.
It's like candy milk.
What? There's no sugar in it.
It tastes a little sweet.
It's because you have 8 shots to your. Oh my gosh. Okay.
It's just a very different taste. But thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Question number 6. This is from Alex Harris. He says.
She
says.
Come on.
I'm sorry.
Don't be mean.
I'm sorry, Alex. I now see your gorgeous pack walk picture with your beautiful feminine
Right?
physique.
Don't be presumptuous.
All right. Hi, Sean and Laura. How long do you apply pressure with the dominant dog collar? The obvious answer would be until the dog relaxes, but I don't want them to relax to the point of passing out. That's a good,
Nor do we.
good thing. All right. Hit it.
And we're off. Okay, so it's kind of a feel thing, right? I just shot a video. I think your question went up before my dominant dog collar video went out, which I just put out, I think yesterday. It was pretty involved, where I talk a lot about how I do it and why, and all the different applications. So if you're using it like, right, so we've got it for severe like safety, like ripcord on a parachute with dogs that are really dangerous or dodgy, right? Dominant dog collar, long line, dog dragging around while you're working with them, so that way in case the dog decides to go after you, you can apply pressure up, like, and that's significant pressure. That is where you want the dog to like really like go to the borderline of like getting dizzy, because that's a dangerous moment. That's self-preservation, right? So that's like in case of attack, right? That's not what we're really talking about, and hopefully you're not working with dogs like that where you're having to even be concerned about that. But that's kind of like the OG concept of it, was that it was built to be able to take out the wind and cut the blood supply, and to where you had a dog that was coming after you, hence the dominant dog collar name. You could take the dog down to a relaxed space and then work from there. But the way we're using it is more just like pressure and release stuff. So like, let's say Sparky Malarkey. So Sparky goes out, we're walking. I said this in the other video the other day, but we're walking. He's very sensitive to prong collar corrections and e-collar corrections. I'm working him at like a 5, 6, or 7 on the mini educator, and he's doing great. If he sees a dog and he responds appropriately with any of those lower corrections, we're awesome. But if for whatever reason that dog gets his goat and he starts to escalate, then instead of continually moving up on the remote, which I know causes him to get amped, then all I do is I take the dominant dog collar, which is attached to my leash, and I just apply pressure up. His front legs don't come off the ground or anything like that. I just apply the pressure, and it's really like, right? But it's happening here, right? So let's be honest, right? So we're getting this pressure, the slow pressure, not like a prong pressure, like a bitey kind of pressure, but this dull, slow pressure all around the circumference of the neck, which I really feel has like relaxing properties to it. And then you're gonna, if you do it long enough, you're gonna cut down on blood blood supply and oxygen, which is going to cause the dog to get like woozy and more relaxed. But we're not really using it so much for that kind of intense thing, where it's more of just like the correction is, here comes this pressure. I know it's uncomfortable, but the difference between a prong or e-collar and the dominant dog collar for certain dogs is that pressure takes the dog down and relaxes and takes the wind out of his sails. Now, how long is that pressure? I can't tell you. It's very dog dependent. You want the dog to be relaxed, but obviously unconscious is more relaxed than what we're talking about. So if you got a dog who's worked up and you apply pressure and then the dog relaxes and the ears come down and the facial expression changes and the body posture gets soft, then that's a time where the dog is more relaxed. And that's when I would release the pressure and then I'd start moving with the dog again. So I'm hoping that that answers the question. See if there's any other notes. Yeah, like I just said, enough pressure long enough to see a state change. I think that's a good phrase, right? See a state change. You're not just looking to like stop the dog, you're looking to see the dog go from this to that, right? And then you relax the pressure. And like I said, it can also be used for the emergency kind of escape cord. And then I said at the end, just start using it, right? Just start using it with some dogs and then get a feel for the pressure, right? You don't have to do anything like big and intense, but just see like going out and like putting dogs into sit, like how much pressure does it take to put a dog into a sit, and then get used to just the feeling. It's a very different feeling than a prong collar. So, and then a lot of people will use them for backups for prong collars. I use it for backups for dogs that might explode on a walk and get really reactive and might try and bite or something like that. So a lot of different applications. Check out that video I just posted the other day because I talk about a lot of this stuff in depth, but hopefully that covers it for you.
Cool. Okay, I wanted to we have an update and we also have a comment from someone, not a question, but I just wanted to do these.
Yeah.
So we have a comment from Nicole, says, not a question, but wanted to say I just saw a
Nicole
perfect...
Fucci?
Yeah, I saw a perfect example of what you guys were saying a few weeks ago about not having reviews available on Facebook because people can come on and lie. This guy had all 5 stars until someone posted a story that went viral, and now people are just leaving reviews to attack him. Thought that was interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I just don't like the idea of like putting our reputation up to random people.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm happy to have testimonials from people, and people could say, well, yeah, you get to control those testimonials. But you know, yeah, we do. I mean, obviously,
people that have
but
purchase the product.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's also Yelp reviews and there's also Facebook comments. People, you know, I post a lot of stuff on there celebrating like victories with dogs. And if the owner didn't like it, if the owner disagreed, if it was monkey business, the owner would be on there going like, yeah, that's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah,
you know, so.
Anyway, okay. And then the update for Jacqueline.
I just got carried away.
Jacqueline Warbus had an update. Jacqueline said, update, thanks for letting me know it was okay to put an e-collar on my 3-month-old Springer Lab Mix Foxter. I'm now getting a good night's sleep. I've got working levels down, but still struggle from time to time on what correction level later on. So dependent on situation and dog, but I'm getting there thanks to you. Another part of this is I loaned the Foundation DVD set. If you don't have it and you need it, go get it. The Good Dog Way. How to train your dog.
You're not talking to Jacqueline. You're
saying
in general.
No. Oh gosh, no, Jacqueline, not Jacqueline. Jacqueline says she loaned the Foundation DVD set to the shelter and volunteers that send so many dogs to me.
Cool.
One of the young volunteers took it home to watch and is convinced that Sean is a genius.
What?
But best yet is a message I received from her. Pop corrections work. I did a test run with Shamrock, my stubborn, hard-headed chow, and she did amazing. She walked right by my side, and whenever I stopped, she looked immediately up at me, waiting to give her a command. I was so thrilled I was nearly in tears. She's always been a 40-pound bulldozer. Oh, that's
Could you go back to that part? I was confused, that part where she said...
Oh, I think it got deleted. That's anyway.
Something about genius or something in there.
I don't think she said that. No. Anyway, it got deleted.
You just went over that really quick, so I couldn't really absorb it.
Thanks so much, Jacqueline. It's really wonderful to get that update.
Super awesome. And by the way, the whole point, and we've said this a million times, dun, 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 dun. We've said this so many times that was really like, as much as we made it for owners, there was a real like sweet spot in our heart that I think we really dreamed, and we still do dream, that shelters would use, you know, rescues would use that DVD. That's why it doesn't have fancy stuff. We're not doing recalls or anything like that. It's all about, like, how do you get dogs that are aroused, escalated out of their tree into a nice, calm, relaxed, respectful space to where they can go into a home and be safe, you know, loved family pets. So I'm super excited that you loaned it out to that girl who obviously has very astute taste in character and quality and value. So
thanks a lot, Jacqueline.
Thanks.
I'm going to have to hear about this all week.
Thanks, we appreciate it. One of us appreciates it a lot.
No, we do appreciate it. Thank you. Question number 7 from Julie. Julie says, hey, Sean and Laura.
Hey.
First of all, you guys are so freaking awesome.
What?
His head again.
Yours too.
You. Oh, yeah. Thanks, Julie. Thanks so much for all you do, especially posting all your videos so I can watch and rewatch. I'm a slow learner, and breaking it down to baby steps and the way you explain each step and what it means is brilliant. Love, love, love your work.
Great.
I messaged you a few weeks back regarding a dog attack. I live in Perth, Australia. Oh my gosh, I have to tell you something. So one of the people that watch this is Jane. I'm sorry.
Jane Stevenson?
Jane Stevenson, who came to visit us yesterday. She's from Newport, Rhode Island. She came over here.
But she's originally from...
She's from New Zealand, and her husband's from Australia. And she left. She came to visit yesterday, just drop in, and then she left. And I told her, I was like, oh, I never got to do my Australian accent for you. And she's like, oh. I was like, come up with a paragraph and text it to me, and then I'll do it on video, and I'll send it to her.
Did you do it?
No, I haven't done it yet, but I was just thinking it'd be perfect.
Yeah.
Well, she's from Australia, so maybe next week I'll do it for the camera. So watch.
She gets hassled. You lived in Australia for a while.
Just 3 months, yeah.
Yeah, and I've been to Australia a bunch of times myself, but my accent's sorely lacking. But she goes to 7-Eleven, and the 7-Eleven guys swear that they're
I'm
like,
Australian.
You're Australian, right? And then you'll like drop
a little bit.
What will you say? Like,
I have a really good... No. I'll do it later. Anyway, so look out for that, Julie.
Okay.
All right, so Julie, so I was so nervous about walking Missy around our route that neither of us was getting out there. No good. Found a solution, though. She has her own walking town and route, and I go by myself on our original route at another time. Her walk is structured for the first half, and then she's allowed to run free in an open space. Not often she'll come across another dog, as I have chosen times that are not likely to meet anyone else. But when she does happen to come across someone or something new, she instantly gets her back hair raised, stiff tail. I think approaching in a friendly manner would be in our best interest. I socialize her with my mate's dogs at least once a week for about 2 months now, and she still takes about 15 minutes to warm up to them. How do I teach her to be friendly on approach when I can't really understand why she isn't?
When I probably can understand.
When I can understand.
Yeah. She got attacked.
Oh, yeah.
You want to jump on this one? You want to take it?
Oh, okay. Julie. So I really didn't expect this. Why don't you go ahead? You've got notes.
Yeah, but it's kind of like you're surprised.
No, it's not.
No?
No, it's not. It doesn't have my name on there.
I can just add it.
No. Go ahead.
You see how it works, guys? Okay, so it's a tricky one, especially in light of the attack that went down, right? So your dog's lost trust in other dogs, and so your hope or your desire is that you can have your dog off leash and have your dog be more social with other dogs. It's not, that's an easier said than done one, right? I mean, your dog's experienced a traumatic situation, and so what's happening is your dog is approaching and interacting with every dog with that, bearing that in mind. Like, is this going to go down again? Am I in danger? You know, so that's why you're seeing the posturing and all that stuff like that. So I don't know if there's an easy answer for this one. If you were one of our clients and we could work with you and show you and kind of walk you through it, it would definitely be an easier one. Mainly, and I don't know if they're allowed to use e-collars in Perth.
I don't know. Yeah, probably not.
I know there's certain restrictions. I don't know if they're all across Australia, but I know that there's plenty of folks in Australia using e-collars, but that's totally a personal call. But if we were going to fix it, then I would teach your dog e-collar recall. and get that rock solid to where I could have my dog totally off leash, and if I saw dogs coming, I could recall my dog back in a heartbeat. Or if we got caught off guard and my dog, you know, all of a sudden a dog comes like bolting out of the bushes and my dog is like in this like posturing, uncomfortable space, I could give my dog a low-level tap and be like, hey, knock that crap off, and then recall the dog back to me. So the e-collar gives you the ability to communicate at a great distance and have your dog feel connected to you at all times, which allows you to influence behavior and have your dog just feel more calm, but also manage themselves better, right? We always get back to that thing of like, dogs are capable of doing such a better job if they have to. And I get that your dog had a traumatic experience, but I also get that your dog could do a better job of being less confrontational or concerned or worried if you were there to say like, hey, knock this stuff off. Now, I don't want to force your dog into situations where she has to deal with, you know, high pressure dogs. I mean, that's the other part of this equation, is that like I would teach, if you were a client, I'd teach you e-collar recall. I would teach you to watch for inappropriate behavior, how to correct it in your dog, how to recall your dog out of nasty situations. But I'd also say you've got to be really responsible for advocating for your dog and not allowing your dog to get put in situations with pushy dogs. That's only going to reinforce that dogs aren't safe, that dogs aren't trustworthy, that dogs are a pain in the butt that might, you know, hurt me. So that's where things get challenging, because we all want to have our dogs off leash. We all want that fun and that freedom, but you've got a dog that's had a really nasty situation, and so you're trying to rebuild that trust. Like, how do we rebuild that trust here? We do it with them around really nice, polite dogs, so they get to see dogs are safe and dogs are okay. Problem is, you're out in kind of the wilds of Perth, and who knows what kind of dog is going to come tromping out of the woods. You know, they're probably going to be, most likely they're just rambunctious and silly, but that silly rambunctious stuff could come on too strong and really make your dog uncomfortable, and then your dog could posture, and then all of a sudden you could have a dog fight that, you know, from two dogs that really don't want to fight, just because no one's there to advocate. So once again, that's why I would go with e-collar stuff. If you can't do e-collar stuff, I would just let me finish this one thought. If you can't, you know, if you can't have 100% recall with your dog off leash, you have to really kind of like debate with yourself about the pros and cons, about like the joy of having your dog off leash versus the problems of what happens when your dog gets himself or herself into a situation with another dog that's not cool and you can't call your dog out of it. So that's kind of the rub. So if you can train your dog like an immaculate recall, even off of high distractions around other dogs without an e-collar, awesome. That's something I would do. But if I can't get my dog to recall 100%, you have to really ask yourself, like, is this a valuable or positive experience?
Yeah. Is it better for you? Is it better for the dog? And I think that you're smart enough to know exactly what we're saying. I just think it's, you know, it's so hard because you've changed your route, you've changed all this stuff to make it all good for you. But man, yeah, that's a tough one.
It's a hard one. Yeah. It's a hard one because it's so nuanced that if I could go out with you and we had your dog on e-collar or even without it on a long line, and I could watch and I could say that's a problem, like you need to address and correct, and your dog goes, oh wow, okay, I'm not allowed to do that, and you can reinforce, you can get somewhere with that. It's hard for me to give you specific information without seeing your dog and seeing how bad it is. But boy, if you could use the e-collar,
yeah, that'd be the way to go.
Yep, it would be the way. So let us know. And let us know either way, just in the comments. Let us know what the Australian rules are. And they might be different in different cities or different parts of Down Under.
Down Under.
I'm Tara. This is Scout. Say hi, Scout. Okay, we're going to show you walk with no problems. Scout, heel. Okay, perfect. No distractions, no issues. Oh. So I'm correcting at about a 20 right now. So once she escalated, then I quit correcting, but prior to that, I was correcting higher and higher. And I guess maybe I wasn't capping soon enough, but you can see the reactivity. If I come over here, that's probably enough space without getting reaction. So anyway, that's an example. Okay, we're gonna do another pass, this time with a little more distance. I've got it up to 40 and I'll see if I get some reactivity. So that was good. Quit it! Quit it! Knock it off! Knock it off! So that was correction at 40, right early. So there were no corrections up to that, but she was just minding her P's and Q's. We'll have a little more distance, and so that's enough for her. So any tips on where to go from here would be awesome.
We've got question number 8. This is from Tara Isaacson.
Hey, Tara.
Our girl, Tara. She said, hey guys, I'm sending some video of Scout's reactivity, which we got. We have been working prong and e-collar and have awesome behavior in the house, at my office, in group obedience, and small group doggy daycare. However, when we're on a walk and a dog just calmly walks by or is barking behind the fence, Scout turns into a lunatic. A month or so ago, I was in group obedience and there was a dog behind a fence barking, so my trainer had me work in front of the fence and correct with e-collar after Scout was freaking out. It did nothing but escalate her. I feel like that might have set us back. Much love.
Tara, so we both watched your videos.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job of like keeping your cool out there.
Yeah.
Scout is definitely like laying some stuff on pretty thick.
Scout is being a not very nice dog, is what Scout is being. There's a difference there, you know, just really quick, because I have to run out and grab something, but there's a difference in some of these guys that we see come in that have, you know, reactivity, and they're just
really
kind of
nervous,
like nervous and, oh, I'm just going to go for this, and oh, I'm not sure what to do. But Scout has a little bit of an attitude to her that, you know, you're a tough handler too, and you know what you're doing, but she's got something that's like, there's one point where she kind of went.
She's coming back at you a bit, you know, when she's worked up.
And even there was a moment, I'm sure we'll cut these in, but there was a moment where you're talking, you're like, hey guys, it's Tara, and this is Scout, and you like pan down to Scout, and Scout, just because we spent all day long for years and years like reading dogs, Scout's like attitude is a little, so just interesting.
Yeah. So are you going to take off?
I'm just going to grab that thing.
Okay, so tough one, Tara, right? So watched all the videos, and I'm watching you walk down that path. When you showed the first video of non-distraction area, Scout looked pretty good, tail looked relaxed, ears back, that's great stuff. But as soon as you were at that, I don't know if it's a park or whatever it is, and you were on that path, then we were seeing arousal. We were seeing the tail different, you know, some different motion out of the tail. Not like up and flagging, but just like this kind of arousal kind of thing. We're seeing a lot of ears up. So definitely, nope, 9 plots. I'm trying to run a dog daycare here. So when I see that, I'm like, oh, that's bad news bears, because the moment that dog sees another dog, that's like, you know, you're off to the races.
Right.
So, and then I know you demoed like using a little more space, and that looked helpful, obviously, which is great news. I'm not a fan of correcting a dog once the dog's in an explosive state with an e-collar. It just tends to lift them off. So I don't know what the trainer's concept was or what they were going with that, but the whole concept with correcting is to correct early. The whole trick is early, high, and early and high. Now, so I might tend to agree with you that might set you back because you know, maybe got some negative worry stuff going on with some higher level corrections around dogs. Couple of other things is that I know at one point you said you corrected at 40. I think you're on a dog tra, And I don't know if you were correcting at 40 for the heel or for glancing at another dog, but my suspicion in the way it looks is that those higher level corrections are setting Scout off. So, excuse me. So like when I'm working with Sparky, who's very, very dog reactive, I'm working at like 5, 6, 7, 8 on a mini educator, which is really low, and then a dominant dog collar. So the problem is that if there's too high of levels used, he just escalates and gets into trouble and looks very similar to Scout. So what I'm doing is low, low, low stuff, right? And then it's the tricky part of like we're trying to stay low, make sure the conversations are valuable enough, but then if the e-collar's not working, then I use the dominant dog collar to take the gas out of the tank for Sparky, or take the wind out of his sails. So down. Look at that. That's obedience right there. So so that might be something you might want to try out right now. So the dominant dog collar is going to give you less finesse that you'll get with the prong collar. Yeah. But it gives you this whole thing of like when you're walking and you start to see this escalation and you correct lower levels and you don't see any change, stop, apply pressure up, relax your dog. Just wait. And then relax, release the pressure, and then continue on. That's an approach that can be really helpful. My suspicion is that the levels, even though you hear us talk about, and I just said a second ago, go high and go fast, or get there quick or earlier. But with some dogs, you know, some of these kind of like 1%ers or 5%ers or whatever percentages they are, it doesn't always work for them. Sometimes it amps them up. So with Sparky, you're seeing me do the opposite kind of approach. So the biggest thing I see is like both me and Laura are like, damn, where's Tara?
Yeah.
Where are you located?
Yeah, where are you located,
you know?
Tara? I should find that out.
We'd love to know where you're located. I mean, I wish you were here in LA because I'd love to try and help you out with that.
So want to help you.
When I see that dog being that aroused and in that snotty of a state, even though you've done good foundation work inside the house.
She's in Utah.
Utah?
Yeah.
Okay. We know some trainers out there that we might be able to steer her towards.
Yeah.
When I see that stuff, all I want to do is come help, because I can tell that just using the tools at that point most likely aren't going to get you, and that might sound confusing, but just using the e-collar and correcting is probably not going to get you what you want with that dog. We're going to need some deeper, more clever strategies to try and get you what you want.
Yeah.
What I see in that stuff, I see a calm handler, which is fantastic, but I see a more assertive dog than I do assertive owner. Even when you're trying to address her and you're telling her to knock it off, which is great that you're like, you know, you mean business, there still feels to me a bit of an inadequacy or an imbalance where Scout is like, and you're a little bit like under that. And I could be reading that wrong, but that's the way it looks a bit. So I would be looking for other moments to really kind of like have valuable conversations with Scout. This goes back to some of the original things that we've talked about with other reactive dogs, where before you see a reactive dog, where before you see a dog like on like at the threshold, that's the moment where you go after high-level corrections, right? You give the dog the opportunity to make a mistake, and then you go after him with no dogs around, no extra stimuli, and bring the dog down, and the dog's like, whoa, I really got to mind my P's and Q's. Or the first correction on the heel before you're around dogs, you don't go small, you go big, right? No dogs to lift him up, but Scout pulls just a little bit, bang, at like 60 or 70, something like that. Now, I'm not saying that's the answer, but that has been the answer for a lot of other clients. So, and meanwhile, I just told you to work lower, right? Yeah. So it's so hard without hands-on with the dog. I'm just offering you up a bunch of different strategies that we've used, from high-level corrections for small infractions really early in the sequence, which is thresholds and heel, or maybe that amps your dog up too, and we say that's not good, and we want to go to lower level corrections on the e-collar, a little more space, and then a dominant dog collar instead of a prong to be able to take some of the gas out of the tank when a little Miss Scout gets snotty and gets into a weird space.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think we'd love to see you. I wish there was a way that we could like go up there and
beam
you could
over
come
there.
down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing is, you know, all I can offer to add to that is just you say everything's great in the house. Let's make sure that everything's like so great in the house. Not just like, oh, she's calm in the house, but like
What's the affection like in the house?
Does she get up every once in a while and like
Does she have
you know,
couch privileges? Does she
Yeah.
have bed privileges?
I think Tara's pretty badass about that stuff.
I know, I just
because
have to
she's had
ask though.
issues.
I just have to ask.
It's good to check in with. Is there, because I know you guys were things were getting better. I wonder if things started to loosen up as things got better. We got to make sure that that's not happening.
Yeah.
So just check in with that stuff. And yeah, I mean, if you ever can get down here, we would love to
Take you for a spin.
get our hands on that dog.
Yeah. It's such a hard one, and
Yeah.
it's really frustrating to watch.
Yeah.
Because you're doing so many things right, but you kind of have one of those tough dogs. One of the other things you can do, just real quick before we wrap up this question, is you can also, like, when you start to see arousal, you can do what's called crittering or step back recalls, which is you just, as soon as you see like a little lift off, you just step back and recall the dog back to you. Take a couple steps, recall the dog back to you, take a couple steps, recall it, and it really makes it hard for your dog to engage in that kind of like intensity because they have to keep turning and coming back to you, but we're not using big explosive corrections to manage that. So that's another, you know, I'm just throwing out all the different things, and to be perfectly honest, I would probably foot tap that dog, which is a different form of pressure delivery, but that's not something just for anybody to do. That's something for an advanced handler thing that I would recommend only for somebody that really knows that inside and out. So Tara, if you can get to us, let us know. If you're ever going to be in this area, take a trip down, let us know.
Try the dominant dog collar.
Dominant
try the
dog
lower
collar.
levels.
Yeah, so let's recap, right? So let's lose the prong, let's go to dominant dog collar.
Yeah.
Let's start using much lower levels on the e-collar.
Yeah.
Let's use a little more space. If your dog starts to light up, right, through the low level e-collar corrections, maybe even considerably lower than 20, then dominant dog collar pressure up until your dog relaxes. Teach them that behavior is no bueno, and then you keep moving. And if you need recommendations for a trainer in your area, let us know. We do know some folks out in Utah.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks for sending the videos. Appreciate it. You got a challenging dog on your hands. So the cool thing to remember is it's not like you're being a pushover and you're like, I don't know what to do. It's you got a tough dog.
Yeah. So it's good for everyone to see your videos, and we're hopefully going to see your journey as you're walking by dogs. No problem.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
All
There's
right.
always an answer.
Cool. All right. Question number 9.
Yeah.
I added this from an email. This is from Rita. Rita had been talking to me about a puppy that she was getting, and she wanted some help on it. But again, we only do questions here in Q&A because we want everyone to benefit from it. So Rita wrote us another question once she got the puppy, Lucy May.
Lucy.
She said, Lucy May is here and adorable. I picked her up Tuesday, and I've been working with her using your and Sean training calendar from the DVD, I'm sure.
Oh, cool.
I need some help with walking her using the slip lead. I'm pulling her gently to even get her to walk, and she'll walk a little with no pressure. And then I say, good, and then she pulls ahead. A correction seems to do little to prevent her from getting ahead of me, and if I do the correction stronger, I end up pulling her off her front feet off the ground. I do 180s, and that only helps a little. So she's 9 weeks, so we were having her just do a slip lead, right?
Yeah.
So she's 9 weeks today. I guess I want to make sure I'm not expecting too much of her to keep doing what I'm doing, and she'll just get better. I appreciate your help.
Yeah. What kind of dog?
Oh, I forget. I don't remember.
Okay. What's this lady's name?
Rita.
Rita. Okay, Rita. So we're using a slip lead.
We're using a slip lead. She's doing all the foundation training from our DVD, except she's doing puppy.
Okay, and she's struggling mainly. Struggling mainly with the walk.
Yes.
Okay, so everything.
Okay. sorry, let me find.
Everything else seems to be okay, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this might be one of those things where like
Miniature golden doodle. Sorry.
miniature golden doodle. No wonder you're having trouble. It might be one of those things where you kind of just remember to fight the battle. You're going to fight the battle another day, right? So it's like with a really, really young dog like that, like I wouldn't be wanting to lay heavy corrections on the dog. If you want to use some food to try and redirect the dog, get the dog to like focus a little bit on you, that's something you can definitely do. I don't want you ramping or cranking on the dog with the slip lead.
Yeah.
And at 9 weeks, I wouldn't be putting a prong collar on the dog either. So, but, you know, 12, when you get to like 3-month mark, you know, then you can start looking at, you know, depending on the size of the dog, you could start looking at a small prong collar to be helping out. I mean, I guess my point is that you may have to suck this one up for a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're doing just fine. I think her question really is like,
am I trying to
asking
do
too much for her? And
yeah.
I think that Rita, you think you're doing great.
Yeah.
I think you want it to be perfect.
High
and
standard, yeah.
It's going to be a little bit, it's just a puppy. It's going to get kind of silly. So if she's pulling ahead, just the idea that she can walk on a leash and just respond to leash pressure at this point is perfect.
Yeah.
Just do that. You know, you can use a little food lure if you want to do like downs and stuff like that. Just getting her used to the concept of listening, being accountable to this stuff, and understanding pressure and how to turn it off, man, you're golden. And then in a couple months, you know, three months or a little bit beyond, because she's small, just get a micro or a small prong collar and then layer that on top.
What? She's how many weeks? 9 weeks?
She's 9 weeks now.
9 weeks. So I mean, like 12 weeks.
Yeah, 12 weeks.
Somewhere around there.
So
You could probably start using a small. I wouldn't even go micro. I'd go small.
Go small?
Because
Cool.
then you could grow into it.
Yeah.
And then, so like Laura said, I think it took me a second to get the gist of what the question was about.
I jumped this question on.
No, but I think I think you're right on that. The question is more about like, am I asking too much?
Yeah.
And I think you're doing a great job. And I think I would just say, we'll fight this battle another day.
Yeah,
We don't
that's
need this
gonna
to
be
be
fine.
perfect. And then, you know, when you do go to like a small prong, it's going to be a piece of cake.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like Laura said, the dog's already acclimated being on leash. So, good stuff. I think you're rocking and rolling. I think you're going to be just fine.
Just fine.
All
Nice
right?
work, Rita.
Yeah.
Okay, see ya.
I just want to say, hard questions this week.
It's kind of a hard batch.
Where's the softball questions?
Here we got one. This is from from Instagram.
Okay.
So we've got a couple people here on Instagram. It's question number 10, by the way. A couple people. Emma's World says, found you guys on YouTube and IG. I'm a new subscriber and follower. Thanks for all your helpful advice and tips. Great.
You're welcome.
Yaki 404 says, 504 says, loves today's show. I look forward to y'all's Q&A Saturdays every Saturday. Keep doing what you're doing. Y'all are awesome. Snarky malarkey, LOL. Snarky malarkey, J. Cray. She says, Rockabilly Lynn says, you guys are awesome. Can't wait to meet and train with you guys. November can't come soon enough. So she must be training with us in November.
Is she a client, I guess?
Must be, yeah.
Okay. We don't have a T3 in November, right?
No.
Okay.
And then the question number 10 is from Lisa218. She says, love your Q&As. A short Q. Can you explain dominant dog collars versus a prong collar? It seems like both you and Jeff G mentioned them a bit lately, but the benefits or differences and when to use one or the other isn't obvious to me. Is it size of dog, specific behaviors, etc.? Thanks so much.
First of all, who's this Jeff G character?
Yeah, it was this Gilman.
Okay. So what do we got? Lisa?
Yep.
Okay. Come on, give me a little credit. All right. So the question is, what's the differences? What are the advantages?
What dog would you use on which? And that sort of thing.
Okay. So here's a prong collar, Herm Springer, medium, 3.0. We use these on, we use prong collars on 99.99999% of dogs, right? Then we have the dominant dog collar here. And this gets hooked like this, and your leash goes here, and it becomes a fitted, right? So rather than like, you know how you guys all know like choke chains, all you old school folks, choke chains had to go over the dog's head, right? And then you do the whole thing, and then they could be very loose. The trick with these are that you size them by the inch. You order them from Learberg.com. And then you can size it exactly what you need for your dog. And that means it stays right at the top. Will this fit on my neck? Well, look at that.
Look at that.
I think it's a good
Perfect.
fit. There you
Great
go.
fit.
You want to correct me?
They can't see that though. So you've got this
Right.
like this. Put the leash here, and then you've got your thing.
Right? So that's how the dominant dog collar goes. But the cool thing about it, what makes it cool, is that it doesn't go over the head, goes around and then clips right onto this floating ring.
Yeah.
Boom. So why do we use the different ones, right? So this is what we use if we're using just prong collar stuff on medium to large dogs. This is what we go with. If we're using, if we're working with small to medium dogs, we use the 2.25 from Springer, which is their smaller version. All of our board and trains go home on the 2.25 because e-collar is what they're primarily working with. So this is what we would use just to maybe get them started on prong, and then we ditch this and go to the smaller one so they don't have as much jewelry.
Yeah.
Now, this is great. We teach, sit down, place, all that beginning obedience stuff with this. It gives so much directional information so precisely and very softly and nuanced with the dog. So you don't have to use a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So many people that have struggled with pulling dogs, you put one of these on and teach the dog how to walk on it. And it's like fixed so quick. It's really pretty amazing like how well these work for that kind of stuff. Just communication is, I would say, very nuanced and specific, right? So if you want to teach directional stuff or anything, you don't have to use much pressure and the dogs get it. Now, the dominant dog collar isn't, because it's going to share pressure, right? You can just see super simple, right? This is going to share more precise pressure like this, which is going to get the dog's attention in a different way and also have a different kind of aversive built into it. And then this is going to be a very dull kind of pressure, right? Just this pulling around the dog's neck. So very different feelings, very different sensations, which will cause very different reactions. Most dogs are pretty damn great with prong collars, but just like we've said in this episode, dog Sparky, we took his prong collar off and we went straight to this, and the rationale is because this is going to keep him from being wound up, just like Laura's dog Polar Bear. He didn't like to wear one of these. That made him a little nutty, so she went to one of these and an e-collar, and then things were much, much better. Now, of course, this doesn't give you the directional stuff quite as well. Your dog goes to the ground and you correct with the e-collar and he doesn't give you a great response and you have to pull up, you're gonna have to use more pressure. It's not as responsive, but it's great at not getting the dog worked up. And then if you do have problems, like we've talked about, you can correct and take the wind out of the dog's sails and really relax the dog with this in a very different way than this will. So really great tool, very, very, not universal, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Lots of applications.
Yeah.
Very,
Reversal's good.
that's not the word, but I'm
Well,
looking for.
it's
But yeah, so anyways.
Lots of applications.
Lots of applications. So this is what we use for most stuff, but this is a really cool tool to have for dogs that might come up the leash at you, might get bitey, or dogs that have an adverse reaction to a prong collar and you need to have control with the dog. So hopefully, Lisa, that answers your question between the difference between prong and dominant dog collar.
Great.
Is that it? Oh, are we? What? Who's that?
Versatile?
What?
Was it versatile?
Versatile.
Oh.
Brent's coming through.
She's coming
It
through.
was versatile.
You know,
So, guys, thanks so much for watching. Once again, we love you guys. We
Yeah.
so appreciate you. Appreciate the support. Like I said, the numbers keep going up and up and up, so I know that people are enjoying the show. We're getting such great feedback.
Yeah.
I think the cool thing about this is that in conjunction with our free videos and everything else we put out, this gives some different context to
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
Gives a little bit more nuanced, detailed context about like how we might approach things,
it's like
or
phone consults, but like in a
yeah. It gives us a little bit more of like a specific way of sharing the information and how to apply it with you
Yeah.
guys, and we really enjoy it. And then it's also just a lot of fun to talk
Yeah.
with you guys and have a little silliness go on here. So thanks so much. Challenging times ahead for Q&A Saturday, because there's traveling going on.
That's
We're going to
right.
have to get crafty and see what we come up with.
Get
Laura
crafty,
Morgan's like,
creative.
you're going to Norway?
I'm going to Norway. We're going
Right.
to Portland. He's going to New Orleans.
Right.
So we've got a lot of stuff, but we're going to figure it out. We might do like some live webinar stuff for you guys. We might do like 2 Q&As in 1 week.
Yeah, we might ask
do,
for a
like-
whole bunch of questions.
Yeah.
So we can shoot a couple episodes
Yep.
and then send them out. We'll come up with something.
Yep.
And, you know, maybe I just have to like be the big baller and fly you out every week. Right? First class. Come
Right.
on down for Q&A
I
Saturday. She
couldn't
just
say no to that.
comes in like this, Q&A Saturday. So we'll see. One way or another, we're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
We don't want to lose our momentum with you guys. And that's about it.
Yeah.
I say we're out of here.
Cool, guys.
I'd say 45 is in the bag.
45's in the bag. Thanks, guys.
See you next week.
Send us more questions.
And let us know what you think about the donut of power here,
Yeah.
the donut light.
Our eyes are going to be popping.
Is it going to be good?
Yeah.
Good. Let us know what you think. Thanks.
Thanks.
See you guys.
All right, Jane. Challenge accepted.
Ready? Get into character. You're on the beach in Perth. Do they have a beach
Challenge.
in Perth?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Beaches everywhere.
Just checking.
All right. It's a bloody corker of a day, mate. The missus is round the back and the dunny. The Sprog's headed to the dairy to get mince pies for Smoko, and your old Sheila's still in the scratcher having a bit of shut-eye. Bloody beautiful. Let's crack open a couple of tinies, put the feet up, have a bit of yarn while we throw some shrimp on the barbie. So, Blue, me old lady was into me the other day like flies on shit about me mongrel dog Wag. He says he's a mangy, worthless old flea bag that's about as useful as a wooden leg in a bushfire, and he's got to go. I said to her, Cheryl, if that mongrel of a dog goes, I go. Fair dinkum, she clobbered me square over the scone, kicked me in the family jewellery with her ginger mag, stormed out of the house, jumped in the Torana and off down the farm road for a skin full of schooners at the pub. She's about as slippery as a barrel full of eels that won when she gets wild. I'd rather stir up a hornet's nest than tangle with that old lady. It's truth I'm in a hell of a pickle, Blue. What you think, mate?
Pretty awesome. Pretty
I
awesome.
missed a couple there.
Pretty awesome. That's pretty good though.
Thanks.
For one through read, that's pretty nice.
That's right, Jane. Top that. Try that.
What's her challenge?
I should just
should
come
have
up
her-
with something like Southern California.
Yeah, like lay some Southern California Valley Girl stuff on her and make her come back with
I
some
can
stuff.
do that. Just you wait.
Nice work.